Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX2, and even though EX2 isn't a very large set, we still have lots of new and powerful cards to build and iterate on some new and existing decks with. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be the Terriermon deck. So the Terriermon deck, in its concept, it just seems to be like it's your classic or average green deck, where the whole idea is to try to suspend the opponent's Digimon down, keep it suspended, and then use the fact that it is suspended for various different benefits to make your cards stronger or better, and then beat it up at a later turn. But what's making the Terriermon deck a little bit different compared to some of the other green decks is the fact that we do have some decent name-based synergy to be able to utilize various different cards even more efficient than we normally would. So with all that said and done, let's get into the profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Pinamon. So Pinamon is just the 5th Digitama of the deck, and it could really be anything you feel like you want it to be. But I think green with its lack of good card draw, so Pinamon is just helping us accomplish that with its inheritable ability of when attacking once per turn. When you attack an opponent's Digimon, then you get to draw one card, so it's just helping again with the overall card draw of the deck. But the main Digitama is acting as some better and easier card draw to trigger in the form of 4 copies of Gummymon. So Gummymon has this nice inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, then we get to draw one card. So literally the act of suspending is what's allowing us to make our deck more consistent, which we have lots of different ways on being able to suspend the opponent's Digimon, especially in green. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Calymon. So Calymon is a pretty interesting card just because, well, he doesn't exactly have a level, but he's still a really good card to help with the deck's overall engine. So what this card is doing is, even though he costs 3 to hard play, we could actually reduce that to 1, where if we have a Digimon with a Gummymon, Terriermon, Renamon, or Impmon in play, then we reduce his play cost by 2. So he just is a very easy and efficient card to hard play, especially in this deck with us running lots of different Terriermons. Then we're trying to take advantage of his passive abilities. Well, maybe not the fact that he can't attack, but his secondary ability where he's going to help us gain a memory, draw a card, and give a Digimon plus 3000 DP when one of our Digimon digivolves by suspending him. So green already wants to interact with being as efficient as possible, and Calymon just helps accomplish that goal as well. Then, speaking of our Terriermons, next onto our rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Terriermon. So this is the BT03 version of Terriermon, and this Terriermon is really good, acting as an anti-meta floodgate card. So what he's trying to do is stop the opponent from doing some of their memory manipulating shenanigans with his all turns ability, where your opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects. So the opponent will just try to have to deal with this version of Terriermon before they could utilize some of their other cards to make more powerful and efficient lines of play. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Betamon. So even though Betamon's not a Terriermon, he is in the deck just to help with the overall consistency, acting as a solid digging tool for our Tamers and various level 4 Digimon. So his on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 green level 4 Digimon card or 1 green Tamer from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So he's just, again, a consistency tool. And speaking of consistency tools, next I'm going to be running 4 copies of Terriermon. So this is the BT08 Terriermon, and this is going to be looking for our more specific Terriermon evolution line. So his on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 5 cards of our deck, add 1 card with Gargomon or Rapidmon in its name from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So he's just trying to look for our more specific inline synergy to be able to climb our stages as efficiently as we possibly can. And speaking of efficiency, the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Terriermon. So this is the brand new EX2 version of Terriermon, and this card is just trying to help make our Tamers a little bit easier to play. So he has the nice ability where during your turn, once per turn, when you play a green Tamer, then you get to gain a memory to just make our Tamers cheaper and easier to hard play. And sometimes that's the big drawback on our Tamers, is we don't necessarily have good opportunities or windows to be able to play them, and this card just helps with that. Then on top of that, it has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP to try to make our Digimon a little bit stronger. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gargomon. So this is the BT03 version of Gargomon, and this card is just a fantastic card because it's a super cheap and easy card to Digivolve into to try to help us climb our stages as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can, evoing for 1. If we pair this up with Calamon and Digivolve into this card, then it's basically a free evolution, on top of the fact that it also could be free off of our Willis. But I'll get into Willis later, and this card is just also a really good card to help boost our Digimon's DP, where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for each of the opponent's suspended Digimon, which is something we're already trying to do in the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Arbormon. So Arbormon is just that hybrid in the deck to try to squeeze in some cheap wins with, just because we're already playing a decent amount of Tamers, and we could utilize our Tamers as level 3 Digimon with Arbormon to be able to attack right away with to try to sneak that win. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gargomon. So this is the EX2 version of Gargomon, and this card is really good for both of its abilities. Its inheritable ability of just helping us gain some DP when an opponent's Digimon is suspended is the same thing that we saw with Terriermon. It's not super important, but it still is nice to have nonetheless. What we're trying to gain out of this card is its native ability, where during your turn, when this Digimon would Digivolve, if you have a green Digimon in play, then you get to reduce the cost of the Digivolution by 1 to, again, play into the whole classic green style of thing to make our Digivolutions cheap and efficient to try to outrace the opponent when we're trying to climb our stages. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Rapidmon. So this is the BT8 version of Rapidmon, and this card is absolutely insane for this deck just because, well, it's a Rapidmon, so we have that name-based synergy. It wants to Digivolve off of Terriermon for 3, so we have an easier way to Digivolve into it versus some of the other decks. It has the Armor Purge ability, so that way when it's popped and it's deleted, then it just basically reverts back down to whatever Digimon's underneath, which is most likely going to be a Terriermon. So we have a sticky body, and it's supporting the whole idea of trying to suspend the opponent's Digimon down with his when Digivolving ability, where we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down for each Tamer we have in play, and then we get to have up to 3 of the opponent's suspended Digimon gain minus 5000 DP for the turn, either trying to delete them or make them weak enough to be able to delete them with our various other Digimon. Next, onto the level 5s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Argomon. So this is the BT2 level 5 version of Argomon, and this card is in the deck just because of his tempo efficiency. So what we're utilizing him for is the Digisorption 3 to make his evolution into this card basically free. So free value is good value, and then we're going to use this card to basically go into a level 6 super easy and efficiently with. Then on top of that, he has a nice when attacking ability where we get to play 1 level 3 green Digimon from our hand suspended for free, and we have some pretty decent on play abilities and passive abilities we want to try to take advantage of thanks to this card's inheritable. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Blossomon. So Blossomon is just going to be the filler for Argomon because Argomon level 5 was limited to 1. So we're just using this card strictly for the Digisorption 3 ability like Argomon to be able to use it as a free evolution to climb our stages with. And then the last level 5 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Rapidmon. So this is the brand new EX Rapidmon, and this card has 2 really decent abilities. He has 1 native to him when we Digivolve up into him, where we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon to try to help start the control. And then on top of that, his inheritable ability states that during your turn once per turn, when one of the opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, then this Digimon gains security attack +1 to allow whatever level 6 we're using to hit a little bit harder. And speaking of our level 6s, next I'm going to be running 2 copies of MegaGargomon. So this is the BT03 version of MegaGargomon, and this card is just your very stereotypical green card. When we Digivolve up into him, we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down, and then that Digimon doesn't unsuspend it during their next unsuspend phase, so it basically buys us a whole turn of them not trying to use their Digimon, so that way we could use his secondary ability to give him security attack +1 and then beat him up later on our following turn. So his second ability more specifically states that during your turn, while the opponent has a suspended Digimon in play, then this Digimon gains security attack +1, so it's just our main damage dealer to try to help close out games as quickly as we possibly can. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Nidhoggmon, so it's not a green deck without Nidhoggmon just because we're already trying to suspend the opponent's Digimon down, and Nidhoggmon could be a great equalizer board wipe card for the opponent having lots of suspended Digimon. So he has the when Digivolving ability of Digiburst 4, which is fine because we don't care about his inheritable abilities because, well, he's not really trying to use them anyway, where we get to suspend all of the opponent's Digimon that has 5000 DP or less. Then we get to place all of the opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of their deck in any order. So this just helps with the overall control on trying to suspend the opponent's Digimon and get rid of them. And then the last level 6 in Digimon of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new MegaGargomon. So the brand new MegaGargomon is functioning kind of similar to the old one, except his abilities are a little bit different. So his when Digivolving ability allows us to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon for each green tamer we have in play, which we generally want to have a decent amount of. Then those Digimon don't unsuspend during the opponent's unsuspend phase. So it is acting basically like a better version of the old MegaGargomon in this aspect, but it doesn't have as much or as high of a damage output because its when attacking ability is more focused on control, where when we attack once per turn, we get to return one of the opponent's Digimon that's suspended with less DP than this card back to their hand. So it just naturally has some pretty high DP, and we have different ways to boost it to be able to control various other Digimon that the opponent could have. And then as far as the options go, I'm only going to be running 1 copy of Hidden Potential Discovered because this card is just that good, and we're going to be trying to utilize our Tamers more as our options because our Digimon already could put in so much work with all of their abilities, and we want to try to climb our stages to take advantage of our Digimon. But what Hidden Potential Discovered is doing for the deck is just allowing us to Digivolve into mainly our level 6s as efficiently as we possibly can. So its main ability states that the next time one of our green Digimon Digivolves this turn, we get to suspend one of our Digimon to reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 5, which just makes any of our level 6s super easy and efficient to go into and use. And then lastly, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Willis. So Willis is another Terriermon-based synergy card just because it has more name-based synergy on top of it being just a really decent tamer in his own right. So he has the on-play ability where we get to hatch 1 Digi-Egg in an empty space in our raising area, so it just allows us to try to accelerate our raising area to make more powerful plays even faster. Then on top of that, he has a nice ability that's helping make our evolutions even cheaper, where during your turn, when one of your Digimon would Digivolve into a Digimon with Gargomon or Rapidmon in its name, then we get to suspend this tamer to reduce the evolution by 1. So it's just helping with us trying to climb our stages as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. But the main tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Henery. So Henery is going to be that memory fixing tamer where we get to start our memory at 3 if we're ever less than 3. Then on top of that, it's going to be interacting with, again, our name-based synergies, where during your turn, when one of your Gargomons or Rapidmon in its name attacks, we get to suspend this tamer to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon. So this is the big reason why we don't really need to run any options that suspends the opponent's Digimon down. And then the last tamer of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Izzy. So this is the starter deck Izzy, and this card is interacting with the fact that we want to suspend the opponent's Digimon down, and he's going to be gaining us some memory for doing so. on top of the fact that he's just a really cheap and efficient tamer to play, so it just allows us to be able to combo off with some of our various other Digimon. So if we have him in combination with the new Rapidmon to suspend the opponent's Digimon, then that helps reduce the cost of the Rapidmon by helping us gain some memory. Then if we combo that with Calomon and we combo that with Henery, then we can make that evolution free or possibly even net some extra memory. And this type of potential could be seen throughout a lot of our other different Digimon in the deck to try to make them as effective and efficient as we could possibly make them. And then we do just have a whole bunch of other tech and tools that we could think about incorporating into the deck depending on the synergies that you're trying to line up. So we do just have a slew of different rookies that we could play in the form of ones with inheritable abilities and ones without, just for raw tempo. And if we do have some with inheritable abilities, then we have some pretty good ones like Argomon to help with DP boosting, or Kokuamon to help with security attack plus, or we even have Bakumon to help gain some memory when we're attacking. Then as far as some really solid champions go, we could play into some security Digimon with Snymon to try to help suspend the opponent's Digimon down while being a security threat to pop out and start climbing our stages with quickly and efficiently if they're unable to deal with the body coming out. Plus, just the suspending the opponent's Digimon is fitting on theme and can help take off some of the aggression during the opponent's turn. But we also do have some more inline synergy cards, so if we wanted to, we could run the BT03 Rapidmon, just because this is a really cheap and efficient card to digivolve into, and again, with all of our name-based synergies, we can make him even cheaper to help our overall tempo. Then we do have a whole bunch of other level 5 Digimon that we could take advantage of. So we do have Lilamon for some more suspending on the opponent's Digimon. You could run the BT01 Lilymon as well for that. While we also have something like EX Lilymon to help gain security attack plus to try to have consistency on our abilities, or if we wanted to, we could even play into the MegaGargomon Terriermon from the starter deck to just try to help trash the opponent's security when we're attacking into their Digimon, which is something we already want to do anyway. Then if you wanted to run some level 7s in the deck, we do have some level 7s in the form of Chaosmon and Chaosmon Volderarm. You could technically run Susanomon if you really wanted to, but you would just have to use him as a normal evolution, which I think the Chaosmons are a little bit better at accomplishing that goal. Then if you wanted to, we do have some other options if you want to try to lean more into options and less into tamers. So we do have something like Megadeath to try to act as one of the better control type tools to bounce and suspend the opponent's Digimon down. Then we have Samdesanti as another really cheap and efficient card to be able to suspend the opponent's Digimon or tamers down. Then, if you're looking for some consistency, we do have Green Memory Boost to help us gain memory at a later turn while digging through our deck for green Digimon to use. And if you just want an inline option to try to help control the opponent's field, then we do have a whole bunch of other suspend-based options and bounce-based options. And to make the whole blue-green synergy work, we do have Davis to help tie it all together, because if you do want to run a consistency tool on a tamer, then Davis also helps look for green Digimon while counting as that blue source for Megadeath. And then we do just have various other tamers that we could run, Mimi, to help accelerate and turbo our raising area even more, which plays into what Willis is trying to do. And we do have Izzy and Mimi to act as some extra memory gaining in the form of a duo tamer to help extend past that 3 memory threshold that our memory fixing tamers will fix us to. Then we also have its secondary ability to try to help RNG our way to victory by allowing us to try to cheese into some level 6s. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation on what a Terriermon-based deck is going to be doing in EX2. I don't necessarily think this deck is going to be hyper-competitive, just because this style of green deck has never really worked out that well, because it's relying so much and solely on the opponent to do stuff. And sometimes the opponent is just going to hide their Digimon in raising or just play lots of tamers, and then you get basically no value or synergy off of your cards, which could really help ruin and slow down your game plan while the opponent is still playing at their normal pace and their game plan. But I think that this is going to be a really fun casual deck to play around with, just because it's very thematic and it could still do some very strong things if the opponent isn't ready or expecting it. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.